Welcome back to the show where your someday starts here. And today is a big day because it's our very first interview.
It's so cool, guys. I'm so excited to share this interview. It was recorded beforehand, and I have to say, I'm inspired. I'm ready to book these trips based on this guest that we had. She was so cool.
So we are interviewing the Cargo Bike Mama, which, I mean, she's so much more than just a cargo bike mama. So first off, she travels with her family of 3 kids.
Her name is Maddy.
Her name is Maddy. Maddy travels with her kids and husband. Basically, every summer they go for, about 2 months. The time changes here and there. And they exchange their house with strangers and have been doing it for years, really.
Yes, and that's a free exchange. So they live in New York City during the school year, and then they hop over to Europe, and every 2 weeks they choose a new destination, and they exchange their home with someone in a place like Barcelona or Berlin or Paris or Annecy, France. And they get to have these amazing experiences at the cost of almost zero.
Yeah,
Almost
basically
zero.
because they're staying for free, they only pay for their flights.
They pay for their flights and they pay for the summer camps that they send their kids to, which are also a fraction of the cost of the expensive summer camps in the States.
So we dive all into that. And so Maddy is a professor at Manhattan University, teaches some very light subjects like modern American gangs, gender, crime, and justice, issues with contemporary policing, mass incarceration. I mean, we didn't go into any of that, but I'm actually very curious. I want to have her back on because I feel like we could just learn a lot from her.
Maybe we will have her back on. And I want to have dinner with her because her and her husband they seem really cool.
They seem really cool.
Yeah.
So very excited to share this with you. We dive all into the house exchanging, how to do it. This is obviously, you guys know, or you probably might know, that we made a little bit of I'm not even going to call it a mistake. It's not a mistake. We tried to live abroad and decided it wasn't for us at this time of life. But we realized this is something that I think a lot of people can do with this house exchanging. And so you get to learn all the details, how to do it, how they do it, what they've learned, mistakes they've made, and, just get inspired from it.
They're able to live a nomadic lifestyle, but in little bits and pieces or larger bits and pieces as 2 working professionals in corporate America and academic America. And I think that's really inspiring that they're able to work, and then in the summers with their kids, and their kids are in school and all of that, and then they're still able to travel and incorporate this creative travel lifestyle. So it doesn't mean that you have to give up the ship in its entirety in order to have this adventurous lifestyle. You can have it all.
Let's hope you guys enjoy the interview.
Welcome to the Romaroo podcast, Maddy, the Cargo Bike Mama. We're excited to have you on.
Thank you. I am very excited to be here.
And she's not just the cargo bike mama. She does it all.
She's what would you say if someone's not a jack of all trades? They're like a Janet of all trades.
She does it all. She's a professor. And actually why we kind of invited her over is kind of like the smallest little slice of her life. She does so much more. So kind of give us the rundown of what you just told us of your actual profession.
Absolutely. So my name is Maddy, and I am a associate professor of criminology and criminal justice at Manhattan University. I run my school's criminal justice major and minor, and I also teach and do research. But where we connect is I started Instagram a couple of years ago as this cargo biking advocacy outlet that has transformed into cargo biking, New York City life, mom style, and of course, travel. So
yes, travel. And I feel like you have such a great creative cultural take on travel as a mom of 3 and a professor. I mean, you're a full-time mom and a full-time professor. And how do you get to fit in travel? You do it in such a creative way. And I think that's what drew me to you. But I want the people to hear how you travel and what you do.
Absolutely. Well, I feel very fortunate because being a professor means that my summers have a lot of flexibility. And I just so happen to marry someone who works for a tech company that allows for a flexible work remote policy. So we started, traveling here and there when our kids were, our first to clarify a little bit, we have 3 kids, 11, 6, and 3, and we have been traveling ever since our now 11-year-old was 6 months. And every 6 months we started traveling, and with one, it feels really hard at the time when you have one, but then when you add 2, and then when you add 3, it gets a little bit more complicated and less easy, I should say. But having kids means we just didn't want to stop traveling. It just wasn't something that we wanted to do. So we figured out a way that it worked for us by having these summers off. And so now we started planning these sort of like epic 9-week summer, European summer travels. And we do it in a way that is fairly creative because, 10 weeks in Europe can be very, prohibitively costly, like if you're doing housing. And so we started home swapping, and I'll tell you how that all started. And we also found that we wanted to be able to do adult things and kid things. So we started putting our kids in local European summer camps, and it just sort of grew and flourished into, this routine. And now my kids are like, okay, where are we going for, summer this year? Like, which countries are we hitting? Which cities are we doing?
I love that so much. And you brought up the 2 subjects that I just find so intriguing and inspiring, because it shows everybody that you don't have to be a complete digital nomad family to live this adventurous lifestyle. And I think that's so inspiring. And I'd love to start in the house swapping, because this is a total foreign concept for so many people. I mean, what is house swapping, and how did you find out about it?
So home swapping is where you exchange your home with somebody else, some other location. You can do it a couple of different ways. When we first started home swapping, it was like this back of the envelope, handshake, gentleman's agreement with this like triplex in Paris, right? And we were just like, we got pinged by a friend who my husband knew from high school and said, hey, you guys have a New York City apartment. I have a friend in Paris. It wasn't even the person. It was like a friend of a friend. Do you want to go to my friend's like triplex in the center of Paris and do a home exchange? We didn't know anything about it. It was the first time we'd ever done it. And we're like, I mean, sure. Like we could show up with our one, I think I had one kid and I was pregnant with my second, and we could show up and like not have this house, but like we're gonna do it anyway. So we agreed to do this home exchange with this family, this other like really cool family. And we just did it through Facebook Messenger. That was the first one we did. But we arrived at this home, and it in true form was this stunning triplex in the center of Paris. And it was free. And it had kid rooms, and it had toys, and it had all the things, the creature comforts that make travel so hard and create so much friction when you're traveling with kids. Like, I don't have blackout shades. Like, yeah, you can travel with blackout shades, but like, it's really hard to carry the sound machine, the blackout shades, the stroller, the like literally all the things that when you're, starting off and traveling that you feel like you need to be successful. And so we arrived into this place. It was kid-proofed. It had everything, and we would wake up jet-lagged, and we wouldn't hear our kids because they were in the room playing with all these new toys. And we're like, oh, this is what travel can be like.
The dream.
So yeah, it was really exciting.
You hit the jackpot like right away, and
right away.
I just can't believe this story of it was just through Facebook Marketplace, or not Marketplace, but Facebook, because now there's a company, right? There's a official almost like yeah. And so you had no guarantee that you were going to show up and actually have a place to stay.
I had no idea.
And this was with a 6-month-old?
How old? No, he was 2. No, he was 3.
Okay. Wow.
So that makes a difference. But we were like, if worst case scenario, if we need to book a hotel, like it's only fine. We'll figure it out. But, we had FaceTimed with the family. It felt really good. We had done walkthroughs of our, homes. It wasn't like, it wasn't totally, I'm being a little dramatic to be fair. It wasn't totally show up and maybe we won't have a place. It was like, okay, it was a friend of a friend, like they knew each other. And, we're really adventurous when it comes to traveling. And I find that when people hear home exchanges, the idea of home exchange, they get a little off put, right? They're like, someone's sleeping in your bed? Like, how can you do that? What about your stuff? And, my answer is one, how much worse is it for beds if in hotels, right? Like how many bodies have passed through those beds that you are now getting into, right? Like here, this is just like a family, it's friends. Like I'm not really that worried about it. And like worst case scenario, buy yourself a new mattress if you really feel like that kind of spooked about it, because the amount of a mattress is still going to be less than like a week of staying somewhere.
Especially in
and
a city
also
like Paris.
Exactly. So, there's so many, it makes so much sense.
I know.
And then the other part is yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I know before we left on our around the world trip, we had all the concerns about like our couch. I remember our couch was like a big concern. And the second we left, like we forgot all about all of our things.
Because it's just a thing, right? I mean, it is your things and you worked hard to acquire those, but ultimately it's a thing.
And I have 3 kids. If my kids haven't destroyed it, then this nice family isn't going to destroy it.
Right.
Now,
did you guys
everything's
talk
replaceable.
about insurance, or what if something goes wrong? Did you have a plan for that?
So really good question. We do we have homeowners or renters insurance. So, our bases are always covered. We do travel insurance, of course, if we ever need to come back home. And, the benefit about it's not Airbnb. These are families who have a similar traveling mindset. And many times when you connect with them, they become like friends. And so you basically have friends who are caretaking your apartment. And we had something happen here in our duplex where there was massive flooding in New York City. And we have a sort of the first floor and the lower floor. And our 2 bedrooms on the lower floor started flooding. And if we didn't have somebody here to handle that, it could have caused major damage. And so we had this very hands-on family. They came in, they cleared everything out. Our super came in, dried everything out. So within 24 hours, that problem was resolved.
Wow, that's amazing.
And you don't get that if your place is empty for weeks.
Right. Now you live in a really cool place. You live in New York City. So I can imagine that a lot of people would want to swap houses with you and exchange houses. What about for someone do you think someone in a rural part, a suburban part of the country would have a hard time finding a home exchange?
I think the inbounds, right? So the way, just to clarify a little bit how it works now, is we're on a website called Home Exchange. And so you put up your home, you put pictures of your home, and you open up your calendar. And so anytime I open up my calendar, I'll get 50 inbounds a day, right? So my calendar is closed because I just can't handle it. However, with that being said, if that person, my response is if that person lives there, then chances are there's something of value that somebody else might want to experience, right? So if you live in a beautiful rural area, chances are someone coming from a different European country will also want to experience that. So there's no harm. It's very low risk to put your home up on Home Exchange just to see what you get.
And now is there I guess in my mind, I'm thinking Airbnb, there's a price. Do you set a price, or is it just, here's my house, I'm looking for offers? What's the exchange? What's the barter?
So there's 2 ways you can do it. So first, I should say that Home Exchange has an annual fee of $220, and that's to service the platform, whatever. But you can do unlimited exchanges. So for us, that $200 covers literally everything. And so for homes, you can do the same time, and it's not by price, it's just by aligning your schedules. And so you can do what's called a direct swap. And so people will come at my house at the same time, and we'll literally be crossing paths in the flight path to there, and then we stay there and then come back. Other ways you can do it is through a point system, where if you put your place up and you say it's going to be empty, you can accept someone will pay you on points. And then you can then spend those points at a different time at a different place. And so I do that sometimes. I tend to do it more when I'm putting family members up in other places, because usually people want to do a direct exchange with our home in New York City, which, we're very lucky. We have a large duplex. And so it's a very attractive experience for people to come. So usually if I put my feelers out, people will be like, yes, what's your schedule? Happy to adjust. And so those are the 2 kinds that you can really do.
That's amazing. I love this, basically cracking the code in a way, because so we just had an experience. We decided to move to France, and now we're back in the U.S. Well, part of it's complicated because we got pregnant and realized it just wasn't going to work with this time of life. And I'm glad we took this test, this risk. But we realized that moving there, one, it's not for everyone, but also maybe that's not for us. Maybe it's something like this where we get to experience the countries, because we do love to travel. And with a family, it's you want to have that longer time period. One, cost saving, 2, cultural experiences.
Right. And I think it's tough to think, oh my gosh, I have to spend, you're spending so much money in general on your mortgage and all of that. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, I have to spend money for a family of 5 or 4 or whatever it might be. Those costs add up for hotels, for Airbnbs and such. And I think this is such a great creative way for families to get out there. And I also think it's almost, the exchange part is fantastic, that you get to meet these other families from around the world, or couples, or whoever they are. Like, have you ever stayed in touch with the families that have stayed in your home?
Many.
Yeah.
I am still friends with many of them. And I think the other part about this, as it's usually parents, right? Because as a family, we're attracted to kid-friendly apartments. And here's another really interesting thing is when you are connected with local parents, they tell you all the kid things to do, right? So like, sure, we spent a summer in Barcelona, or a couple weeks in Barcelona, and they were like, don't go to this one, don't go to this one, go to this restaurant, go to this playground, right? And it changes your whole experience. But then we learned that also local families have childcare recommendations. And so we found literally the Catalonian Mary Poppins. She shows up. No joke. She shows up. Our kids are fed. The house is clean. They have done Spanish lessons. They have gone to the playground. They have, made their own bed. They have done their own dishes. And we come home at the end of the day doing like all the things the kids don't want to do. And the kids are like, like sitting there properly, like, and I was like, who is this person? But and she's amazing, and we still talk with her, and we actually bring her with us some of like these summers that we do, we'll bring her in from Barcelona because she's become like a family member to us. We talk to her all the time, and she's this amazing caretaker that we would not have known about had we not had the recommendations from these. Although I have to admit, I'm going to be going a little longer this year. I'm doing a study abroad. And so my latest hack is how I get there earlier is I run a study abroad for my college students, and then my family flies out a little bit later. So I think I'll be in Europe about 10, 12 weeks this summer. But it's about 9 weeks. And then what we do is we plan for about 2 weeks in each location. Because what I've learned with kids, especially with multiples, is for our family, it's more fun to slow down and do like 1 or 2 things a day, allow for bad days without it like weighing on you that you've missed a day, and like trying not to cram in too much and just sort of like enjoy and relax. And actually, next summer, we're going to a city that you guys recommended on your Instagram. Annecy, am I pronouncing it correctly?
Oh, to Annecy in France. So beautiful.
Yeah, we are ending our next summer, 2 weeks there.
We didn't get to do it, but I hope you get to go out on the lake. It's just stunning.
Hope so.
Yeah, it'll be warm then, so warmer than when we were there.
And there are lovely playgrounds right by the lake.
Fantastic playgrounds right there. We'll give you some recommendations.
Yes.
Please do.
I'm trying to recall what food we had there. I don't even remember.
Raclette.
Oh, the raclette. That's right.
Cheese.
Yes, you got to have lots of cheese.
Yes. Plenty of cheese. Yes, delicious mountain food. Have you ever? I'm so curious. Have you ever had a bad experience at one of these home exchanges?
That's a good question. So I'll tell you the ones that I very diligently picked. The answer is no. These homes have always been really great, very true to form, because we always do these walkthroughs. So more or less we know what we're getting. I've had one where it was sort of like last minute, and I sort of booked it on, points and didn't quite know what I was going to get. And it was like, I've stayed in some like weird places, right? Like, I don't want to divulge too much, but like, it's been a little weird. But those are when, like meaning like, it doesn't heat up the whole apartment, right? And so you're kind of like cold in certain areas and you're warm in certain areas, or, it's, things are just like, they don't have basic things like a dish rack, or, certain things that have been like kind of weird, but generally 99% of the time, and I've done about 75 exchanges at this point or more, have been amazing.
Oh, I love to hear that. Yeah, there's always some quirky things in travel, right? But
there's quirky, right? If someone's living there, it's like basically fine, right? So
now, what do you do with all of your things? Do you leave them in the house? Do you pack them into a storage unit when you're traveling? What do you do with those?
I very little, to be honest, because again, the mindset for travelers, it's not an Airbnb. They know they're coming into people's homes. So the rule of thumb is you clear a couple of drawers of clothing and some hanger space in the dressers and the closets. I put my valuables away and I lock them up and I say, please don't come in. And I lock my space that they go into. And I have never, ever had someone violate my things, damage any of my stuff. The worst that happened was they broke a poop mug, which was like, I got it from my husband as a joke, where it was like coffee cup, where it's like, I have to go to the bathroom. I really have to go to the bathroom as you drink the coffee. Somebody apparently wanted to use that mug and accidentally broke it. And then they replaced it with like an extra mug. That's the only thing that has ever happened. And the expectation isn't to like, your house doesn't have to be perfect. So I think that's really important. As long as your pictures are accurate of what your home looks like, then you're managing the expectations of what people are getting. And people, I mean, at least in New York City, they're not here very much, right? They don't care. It's a place to sleep. It's a place to crash. They have way more fun things to do than hang out in your apartment, right? And so it's just, so I just think it's part of a mindset shift, right? It's like, this is not a transaction for money. You're letting people stay in your home, and you shouldn't have to feel uncomfortable about like what you need to do to prepare for that.
So now with your kids, are you, have they spent any time with school, or are you just vacationing this whole time? Spent any time in school,
Just
like at the location? Sorry?
No, because we've only gone during non-academic times, except, the closest we've come is these camps where we have, although I have to admit, I did sort of put my kids in German language school on accident, but that's another story.
I'm intrigued.
But no.
Did they like it?
They did. They really enjoyed it because it was billed as like a summer camp. And so we were like, cool, they'll take 2 of our 3 kids, the same location, 15 minutes by bike from our apartment where we were staying in Berlin. And we show up and it was like Kuman. And my son, sitting at his desk with his German-speaking teacher, gave me the look of death. And we were just like, bye.
Oh, no.
But they ended up like loving it, right? And so because they spend like 20 minutes learning German, and then they'd go out to the playground, and my son is like making friends with all the other English speaking kids who are there like supposedly to be learning German, and like they ended up going all week. And we said 50-50 chance when we pick them up, they're gonna coo and they're not gonna go back, or it'll be totally fine. And they were totally fine. They wanted to go all week.
Well, I would imagine that your children are pretty adaptable at this point, to be exposed to all of these different cultures, all these different languages, new people all the time. Like, what a gift. Now, what was the first international summer camp that you enrolled them in? And how did you even find this summer camp?
Such a good question. I think I'm almost positive it was Amsterdam. Because when we first started traveling and doing home exchanges, to your point, we made friends with this family and we loved their home. And we went back 2-3 years in a row and we swapped a couple of times. And we found, we were just sort of thinking about like what our kids could do. And we just did like a basic Google search, like summer camps in Amsterdam. And then there's this like website that popped up and it had all this list of these like amazing camps. And so we're like, and they were, half the price of what we were paying in New York City. So my husband and I sort of like looked at each other. We're like, okay, signing up, right? Like no delay, which one are they going to this week? Which one are they going to that week? And so we ended up putting them in and the kids freaking loved it. So the first one was, it's called Tarragon Nature Camp. And it was run by expats, so it was all in English. And the expats were Spanish expats. So the common language was English. So everyone spoke English. Of course, everyone speaks Dutch, but everything was in English. And you drop your kids off at this like wilderness camp and they come home and they are filthy, little bloody, little dirty, and like eager to go to sleep and go back.
Yeah, probably so happy.
Sounds very Dutch. Yes.
Yeah, it was great. It was like very, very Dutch. It was very Dutch. It was like, maybe they'll come home with a broken bone. It'll be fine. Like, we'll figure it out. And then the second one was actually a Lego engineering camp, which you drop your kids off and then they do robotics, Lego robotics. And my son loved it. And so we just realized that you didn't have to be an EU citizen. You didn't have to be a local citizen. You didn't have to speak the local language. You just had to sign up your kids, make sure the camp felt right, like a good fit for you, and then pay. That was it. And then they keep in touch with you all day long with what their kids are doing.
I'm just wondering, I feel like he would love a Lego
I'd love both.
camp.
I would
Do
love
they
both.
accept adults?
Well, I'm curious, what for parents who are excited about this, where would you recommend they would go first? Is there a location you would have or guidance?
I think, it's funny. I think most major cities, like sort of, high traffic, high tourist destinations like Barcelona, Amsterdam, Copenhagen, Paris. I think any of those are really good places to start because we find that a lot of international schools have summer camps. And so there's very low friction to acclimating for the kids. Like they speak English, the staff all speak English. And so I think that's a good start. I do have a newsletter, by the way, for anyone who wants to sign up. And I send out, country specific letters. So the first one was like the first 5 camps we ever went to. And then now I'm doing research with an assistant on different camps in Spain, France, Scotland. And so you can sign up for my newsletter, totally free, and then they can get it there. But that's kind of how I would start, researching in major cities.
I'm signing up immediately.
Yeah, we'll put the link in the bio of this
Yes.
episode.
So if you want to sign up, there will be a direct link.
Yes.
This is really valuable
you.
information. I just want to say it's a whole new world. And as someone who's a parent and also a traveler, you really opened up a new part of my brain to so many possibilities. So thank you. I mean, we're talking about, okay, long-term Europe didn't work out for right now, but maybe we spend the summer in Amsterdam and somewhere else trying out other places. So thank you.
And the house.
And here's the
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and here's the thing about spending summers there is you're also getting the best chance at weather, right? And so you're kind of getting like a lot of the best of both worlds, I think. New York, we love living in New York, but we love spending our summers in Europe. And so I think as like a family, we also tried to move to Europe and it didn't work out for us because of visas and having to give up my career and things I just wasn't willing to do. We weren't willing to do as a family. And so
did you physically go or just go through the process?
We started the visa process and we couldn't get employment sponsorship basically. And it was just like this, sort of like mid-COVID, we need more space. We don't know what we're going to do. We need to just get out of here. And I feel very lucky that it didn't work out because I love our life now and I wouldn't change it.
That's really cool.
So that was just my
Inspiring
plug.
to hear on another level.
Yeah.
Now with the summer camps, I know the first one was in Amsterdam and there wasn't a language barrier. And I mean, you guys have gone to Germany and Spain and all of these other countries. Are any of these camps ever conducted in a different language?
Not the ones we have picked.
Okay.
There are ones you can sign up for language immersion, 100%. Tons of them in Spain, whatever you're looking for, there's kind of a camp for it. So we opted to not do that because again, 3, 6, 11, they're little and we just didn't want that level of friction. However, our plan for summer 2026 is our kids are all dual language. They're in Spanish speaking programs. And so we will put them in language immersion camp summer 2026. But also, I get that question a lot is what about the staff? And here's the thing about, so different from American culture is these staff members speak multiple languages. English is just one of their many languages. And so there's never been, and our sort of threshold for putting our kids in these camp is make sure there are staff members and adults they can go to that can understand them clearly. And we have never had a problem.
And I think you talked about it briefly at the beginning, but insurance for as you go abroad?
Yes. So, of course, our home is covered under homeowners and renters insurance, whatever it is. And then we do Allianz travel insurance just to cover anything. I mean, here's the kind of quirky thing about it is we don't pay for the only cost we have are flights generally. So we're not doing these high ticket price insurance coverages because we just basically need to get home and maybe recover some of our flight. But I did a cost breakdown, actually, one of my Instagram reels, and it costs us on average around $16,000 per summer for 9 weeks for everything we do. So yes, that's a big chunk of change, but it's not going to be sort of devastating in some ways that if we lose the flight and have to rebook our flights, we're not out, 50, 60 grand or anything like that. So I think that's just something to keep in mind. So we do it for emergencies, really.
What about health insurance?
That's a really good question. We do travel health insurance as well, emergency travel health insurance. So that if we basically need to get back,
Right, and Allianz covers a lot. We use Allianz as well, and we purchase the year-long plan, which makes it so economical, so that it's not per trip. Just FYI, if anyone's looking for travel insurance, it's a really great way to make it economical. And they do. I mean, we've run into injuries abroad, we've run into sicknesses abroad, and they're really good about reimbursing.
But also, when you're going to Europe, the actual healthcare costs, even if you didn't have health insurance, is like pennies compared to the U.S. I mean, it's almost laughable when we were in Paris and our daughter had an ear infection and I forget how we found the number. We had a doctor who was going to come to our apartment and they said, well, it's going to be very expensive. I'm like, oh, how much is it? And they're like 90 euros. I was like, to have a doctor come to our apartment and treat her and give her sure, let's do it. You know what? Have them come back tomorrow too.
Yeah, I'm like, I think I pay more with insurance in the States.
Yes.
So no worries.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, we it's funny. We've never, knock on wood, have not had we've never needed to go to emergency, although I probably should have. I did fracture my foot last summer, but in true mom form, I was like, ibuprofen, high tolerance pain, whatever, we'll be fine. And I continued on my summer.
Must keep going.
I've only got 9 weeks.
I've only got 9 weeks. What, I'm going to miss out on something. So
what's next summer going to be? Location.
So next summer we are we're not doing the same as last summer, but like a version we really enjoyed last summer. So we start in Paris and then we go to La Rochelle, Ile-de-Ré, Nantes. Then we're flying to Scotland. We're going to Edinburgh for 2 weeks and then to Annecy.
Annecy.
And then we fly home.
So in all those locations, do you house swap with someone else? Like, do you have people coming in and out of your house for every single trip? Okay, interesting.
Yes. So at this moment, we have no hotels booked because we have homes in each and every location.
And logistically, do you have any issues with, like, I need to get a housekeeper to come in and clean before the next people come in?
So we have an amazing housekeeper who turns over our apartment every single time. We schedule about 6 months in advance. So I'm a little OCD. So 6 months in advance, in case you can't tell, I give her summer schedule. And I say, here, these are the days that I need my house turned over. And she comes and she'll send me messages being like, there was basically nothing for me to do. That's how clean these people keep our homes. So because, it's really nice. So we have our home swappers pay for our housekeeper. And then we always ask to do the same. We ask to pay their housekeeper. Even if they're not used to having one, I say I prefer to pay a housekeeper so the home is returned in the order that you want. And also it's my vacation, right? Like, I don't really want to be cleaning. I really hate cleaning. So like, give me your housekeeper once a week, like whatever it is to keep your home in the way that you want it. It's a fraction of the cost.
Right. Sounds like you have a great system in place, is what you're saying.
Yes.
I'm just laughing. You guys
yes.
went to the same school and might be the same person.
Yes, Maddy is a Penn grad. Whoop, whoop.
That's so awesome.
Undergrad and grad.
Undergrad and grad. Yep, that's right.
That's impressive.
What were you starting to say?
Sorry, I missed you.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
I said I'm sorry I missed you guys. Overlapping in Penn years.
Now, what did you study undergrad and grad? I digress, but I want to know.
Sure. My undergraduate major was East Asian languages and cultures with a concentration in Mandarin Chinese, so I speak Mandarin, and a minor in political science, thinking I would join the alphabet agencies when I would graduate, and then ended up moving to China to Southern Industrial China to do manufacturing, and then decided that I didn't want my career to focus on Chinese language, so I came back and did a master's at Penn in criminology, and then had a fully funded PhD spot at the Rutgers School of Criminal Justice. So that's when I went back for master's in my PhD.
Wow.
This has been one amazing conversation.
I know.
And I really feel like we could talk for a few hours. You're not far away.
We will, over dinner.
Yeah, I was going to say, we could meet
another time. That Thai place that you posted on Instagram looked chef's kiss.
We have to tell everyone what it is. What is it?
I don't know.
It was really...
What's the name?
I have to look up the name.
Put you on the spot. Sorry.
But the food was literally amazing. And we go, one of the perks of Instagram is I get invited to different restaurants. And of the Thai places, this was my favorite so far.
Wow. It
was
looked
really
amazing.
Date night.
Yes.
Yes.
Double date night. Yeah. So, I mean, I found Maddy, I don't know. We just found each other on Instagram and connected. And I was so inspired by you and started following each other. And if anyone's listening, Cargo Bike Mama, MOMMA on Instagram. She's amazing. I mean, cargo bike advocate. I'm sure the Amsterdam lifestyle was great for you, right? The cargo bike capital. And
I mean, that was like how it all started. So,
so
I wasn't a biker before.
you weren't a
One of
biker
the
before
summers
you
we-
went to Amsterdam?
Well,
My first bike I've ever owned was this Dutch cargo bike.
well, and now there's a new app. It's like Kangaroo something. It's in the Netherlands. That's you can rent like by the hour, by the day, the cargo bikes. And our daughter loves riding those things whenever we go over there.
I love them too. Yeah, Scott was biking. I was in the cargo seat with her. Yeah. It's great.
That's awesome. Well, maybe you guys need a cargo bike, after baby 2.
We've been shopping.
I was thinking about it.
Trust me, my feed, I always get the advertisements for those.
I know. I was looking at it. I was like, Christmas present, and then I said, no, this is an investment. We have to decide this together.
Well, let me know if you want any advice on
Absolutely.
which cargo bike to get. Or if you want to come test out one of my 6. You're more than welcome.
6 cargo bikes.
Oh my goodness. You must have good storage there.
The streets of New York City are my storage.
You are a brave
Whole
soul.
other conversation.
You are a brave
Whole other
soul. Maddy, thank you so much for coming on. Maddy, mom of 3, professor, cargo bike mama extraordinaire. Tell everybody where they can find you and follow you.
Yes, please find me on Instagram at Cargo Bike Mama, MOMMA. Follow me there or email me at cargobikemama@gmail.com, and I'll talk to you soon.
Well, thank you, Maddy, so much. We really appreciate this.
This was awesome.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you're learning from and or enjoying this podcast, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram and TikTok. These are great free ways to support this podcast. Also, please subscribe to this podcast on both Spotify and Apple. On both of those platforms, you can leave us up to a 5-star review, which would help us out greatly. Please also check out the sponsors mentioned in today's episode. That's the best way to support this show. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, please put those in the comment sections in YouTube. And yes, we do read all the comments.